So good morning everyone, welcome to Satsang. Let's make some silence first. Learning to surrender to guidance. It is the guarantee that you're on the right track. And it's not that difficult. Abandoning own desires, own ideas, not moving, not choosing, no investment apart from what guidance is pointing. Just keeping it simple. If guidance is not pointing anything, I stand still. I surrender to guidance, not to my own impressions, desires, aspirations. Only guidance. Doesn't matter if it's good or bad. If I enjoy or if I dislike the direction which is being pointed, I just follow. Okay. Vou responder à sua pergunta agora. So this question, it's in Portuguese, and I could have easily answered it directly, but it is a question that, not the question itself, but the situation that pertains to a lot of seekers. So I've chosen to answer it through here. It is about a difficult moment where the vision of own shadow is overwhelming. Let's see where it starts. And it's about there are many things, but the main important ones. About an attitude that there's, it's more than a naive attitude of seekers tending to hold on themselves to the light that they recognize in themselves, and not because the light is very beautiful, but because darkness is too much and they don't want to see it, they don't want to touch it. But eventually, the spiritual work, if it is for real, if it is serious, that shadow has to surface, has to be dealt with. And as all shadow is dealt with, is removed, dealt with is a better word, then what's left is light. So holding on to light to avoid own darkness doesn't work. Makes darkness grow, makes light become a dependency, an addiction, something that blinds your own eyes. And for sure it is connected to the need of changing one's own image towards oneself and others, and very little about awakening. Because in an awakening process, it's more or less unavoidable that you go through this good and bad, because it is human nature and you will have to deal with that nature. But somewhere there, in the one who is going through that process, there's the vision that these are only games of the mind. Good, bad, shadow, light, just games that swing you to one side and to the other and keep you distracted. And keep you distracted by a string of ideas, strings of emotions, and all of that. And for the seeker of truth, that which is good, no need to waste time with it. Let's use the word suitable. That which is unsuitable, there should the time be dedicated. Because what's suitable, it's not an obstacle. So no need to worry about it, unless that's what you're in for, unless that vision of what's suitable, the how do you say this, the recognition of what's suitable, unless this is what you're there for. But if it is for freedom's sake, it doesn't matter. It's there, it's good, good. No time to waste with it. And that which is not suitable, it will come. Those strings of thoughts, those strings of emotions will come intensely, and you will detach from them. And you will do according to what guidance will show you, because if it is a serious process and you've been through the stages, guidance will be there and be pointing the way. If guidance is not there, like I said previously, something is out of place. Out of place. So guidance is there and it's pointing the way, and you're working as it comes. Dealing with what you call your shadow, because it is that vision of your own shadow that is propelling you without knowing into different investments, is maintaining vibration dense so that you cannot go higher than what you are now. It is maintaining the reality that you recognize. And I'm not talking about glimpses of something higher, what you call reality. So if you're not mature yet in the beginning stages, it will be all shanti shanti. It will improve in terms of well-being. But eventually, when you grow up, this well-being will disappear slowly or fast, depending on your intensity, and hell will break loose, your hell. And if that maturity is at the level needed, because possible, needed, you will go through it. Not in a nice way, not in a composed way. You'll go through it as a boat goes through a storm in the ocean. And something eventually will come out from the other side. If you don't give up, if you don't stop, of course. So a lot of time is wasted by seekers trying to reach the highest, trying to maintain this good spirit, maintain this light, and they try to portray that, to see that, to touch that, to maintain that. But this is not about going after their own light. It's about running from their shadow. And this is waste of time. That is the only problem. It's a waste of time. And increasing fragilities, of course. And eventually, you cannot go around it. But what happens is, if you're not mature enough to go directly to this, you are going into a big circle, going round, 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 round to come to that little point. And time wasted. And the work will be there for you, waiting. And eventually, at some point, you'll be swallowed by your own shadow. It will be overwhelming. And this has to do with the balance of your world, of your illusion. Because if you're not swallowed once in a while, and if it's not terrifying, then why will you run from it? So, for you to be able to keep running from it, these experiences have to come once in a while to keep you in a trauma condition regarding your own shadow. And it goes like this, round and round, round and round. It seems that there is movement, but you're not moving anywhere. And the other situation, the other part of this question, I will not read it because it's not really that important, the question in itself, but the situation. Many times it is very common that seekers ask for guidance. But when guidance is pointing something that, because they are asking for guidance with their eyes on the prize, it's like, okay, so I just ask for guidance and it will give me everything that I want. But as soon as things become a little bit more serious and the pointing goes into a direction that they dislike, they go about say, oh, well, okay, so this is enough, this is too much for me. I'll just follow by myself slowly here. So in a way, there was weakness, that's one aspect, and that's not the bad part of it. The bad part of it is the smart attitude, the idea that I can outsmart my own process, guidance. And so I say, okay, so I want it very much, I'll do anything, but if it comes, okay, so it's too much, I'll just continue here. Continue here, where? Continue at another pace, they say. But you're not outsmarting anything. You're just, there's the outsmarting, and does the word outdumbing yourself exist, this expression? If it doesn't, we create it. Because that's what will happen. You see, it's like when you have this attitude, you will just make a detour. It's like you're following a straight line. When guidance comes, you start following a straight line. And as you say, okay, so I stop here and just continue my own pace, you imagine that you're going still in that straight line. But you're not. You just made a detour. You just left the road at that point, you've made a detour, and you're just walking. And the more you're convinced that you're really doing something and that I don't need to go through all those things and blah, 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 the smart one, you just continue walking, continue walking. And depending on the case, how smart you think you are and the potential there is and a lot of things, eventually you will find yourself looking straight to that point where you were and where you stopped. You will be looking at it at a distance and you'll be looking to it, but you will not be understanding yet because you're smart. So you'll turn your face again, you'll continue. Oh, but I'm still continuing, this is going, and experiencings are there, and all of that is there, everything is there, it's marvelous. And your mind is saying, see, you don't need to go through those situations. If you're really smart, this is what happens. And eventually, after some time, you will find yourself at the same point where you turn your back. Guidance points the straight path. And if you don't go through it, whatever you do, you'll be just coming to that point again and again and again and again. Nothing else. It depends. It may take a long time. It may be for a short period. That depends on you, on the attitude you have on your path, on the level of sacredness, on a lot of things. But bottom line is, you will just be moving in circles until you go through that which has been pointed to you. an either or. If that which has been pointed to you is out of reach, there's no more hope for you to go through it, for you to accomplish that which has been pointed, then there's no hope for you too. So if you believe in your heart that there is hope for you, so that it is still possible to go through that which has been pointed. Probably it will not be in the same way, but it will have to be fulfilled. Because no matter how smart you think you are, you're just outdumbing yourself. Just throwing away your precious time, thinking that you have escaped somewhere and a better path will be put in front of you, either because you deserve, or by pity, or by compassion. And I'm choosing these different words because there are many, many visions of the same phenomenon. And this idea that, okay, so I deviate from this which has been put in front of me, and I will beg for something better to come. Because I'm weak. Because I'm weak. There's a lot of different discourses. This is just one of them. But it doesn't matter. What guidance has brought in your path, that is your straight line. Or else it's not guidance. And if it has been put there, no matter how much you deviate, you will end up at the same place. And if by chance you lost that for good, then you wait another round. And whenever that comes, well, nothing guarantees. Because there's actually no guarantees. Nothing is guaranteed. So for those of you who in some circumstance have turned your back to guidance, to your guidance, if it was not a figment of your imagination, whatever that means, wherever you're going, whatever you're doing now, you're just trying to get back to that same place that you have avoided without even knowing it. And if you don't understand this, you will come close and you will look at a distance and you just continue to the other side, not knowing that the direction that you're walking is toward that point where you have turned your back. Because when you turn your back to guidance, you're turning your back to yourself. You're turning your back to the root, to the road that leads you where you need to go. Sorry. And then you stay with this dilemma. There's this is why I've put this, either or. Either that situation is not possible to come back to, and there's no hope for you to, as a seeker of truth, or if there's hope for you as a seeker of truth, then going through that is still possible. Because usually the tendency is to say, oh, but that's long gone, I cannot go back to that, but I still have hope. I can continue. God's merciful, of course. But the question is, it's not about God's mercy, because you're the one who's turned your back. So what talk about God's mercy? Mercy was there. Compassion was there. You turned your back. So forget about God. It's not about His compassion. Because if you have turned your back in that moment, you will do it again. And again and again. But as you think you have bypassed that difficult situation. You're just trying to encounter it again without realizing it. Without realizing it. And with that, time is being wasted. And for those who are in a hurry, well, that matters. So either or. Either you believe that that situation is long gone, there's no hope for that, and there's no hope for you, or if you believe there's still hope for you, so there's hope for that. Those of you who are in this situation or have been in this situation, those who have been, they will know what I'm talking about. Because eventually you went, made a detour, round, round, round to come to the same place and continue. It is like this. But those who are making the detour, they are convinced that they are still walking that straight line. It's like they have escaped. What's the expression in English? It's like they weren't caught. There was no liability, no responsibility taken. It's not this word. There's a word for this. Don't remember it. Well, but you get the idea. So the attitude, the best attitude towards something that it is difficult, it is never to give up. Never. If guidance has pointed this way, I will go through it. It doesn't matter how long I will take. I will not deviate. I will continue to push and push and push and push. Because if guidance has pointed that way, there's something I need from that. Because eventually you go round and round and round. And for you to be able to reach that same crossroad, that same place that you left, and to be able to go through it, either you have suffered a lot in this detour, and it is still preparation, or you will be at the same level, at the same place, just with time wasted, and with the same fragilities. So if you still have hope in yourself, in your path, so whatever you have turned your back to is still there waiting for you. If one is possible, the other is possible. Okay. So another question from Instagram, but I cannot send message here. And it doesn't have a name also, so, well, if you're seeing it, you will see. Brother, how are you? Good. Thank you for being here. I want to ask you a few questions. How do you live in Brazil and what are you building? An ant farm. I'm feeling like I don't fit in anymore. I'm feeling like I don't want to give my energy anymore to the dark system. The rulers of darkness. Sometimes I can't take it anymore. Nobody sees me, nobody wants to listen. Everybody looks like an enemy of the divine. This is quite interesting. Okay, let me continue. So much chaos in my head and home. People have no brains anymore to think, no heart to love, no spirit to see or feel or devoted to the divine. You said, are you ready to leave the world behind? What do you mean with that? When my awakening started, everything inside me told me I should leave to the mountains years and years ago. I didn't answer the calling. It is my mistake. How can I leave the world behind and where should I go? It's so hard to choose for yourself and your deep connection with Mother Nature and the sun and the universe. It's getting just too crazy for words what's happening in the world. You kind of build my dream. Okay. This is interesting. So there was this direction to go to the mountains and you didn't answer it. It's like many other callings that different seekers have and they don't answer it. Why? We'll go into that. I'm feeling like I don't fit in anymore. I'm feeling like I don't want to give my energy anymore to the dark system. This is very interesting. The rulers of darkness. Sometimes I can't take it anymore. Nobody sees me. Nobody wants to listen. So what are you doing there? If you're aware of all these structures, why are you there? Because you're still feeding them. You're still doing all that. And probably you're still telling others what to do and to listen and to change and all of this. And probably, not for sure, but probably, I like to use the word probably. Probably you have convinced yourself that you're there to help others, to help humanity, to change. Probably. This is quite common. It's not just a one-person phenomenon. It is quite common. But in the end, it has nothing to do with that. You're just there because you're dependent on the comfort. You're dependent on the values of the world that you so much reject. You haven't gone through your weaknesses and dependencies. You're there because of your selfish needs. And despite knowing about those structures and not wanting to feed them anymore, you're feeding them. Because you didn't answer the calling. That's not correct. You answered some calling. If it was not that one, it was something else. Look around where you are, what you're doing, and you'll see the calling that you're answering. I've heard this conversation many times, something that goes in the lines of Jesus lived in the middle of the world, so we have to live in the middle of the world. This is because the mind has stopped in time. Because if the mind was more free, it would say, we have lived without any clothes, hunting dinosaurs or something like that. We should do that again. Not knowing that these are only excuses not to follow the path. And you're there in the middle of others, trying to, in your mind, to convince them, to help them to change. But in reality, you're just making good use of what they are producing, the comforts, everything that you like. This is why you're there. You're just upholding their values instead of upholding the values that you deem more valuable. because of weakness. And what is the message that you are telling them by being there? That you are also a part of their world. This has long passed, long past. It's not the time for that anymore. If there was a time for that. Every seeker of truth, his gift to the world is to follow his own path, to uphold the values. And by doing so, he creates a different reality, something that others can see. By seeing it, it doesn't mean that they are close. And by seeing it, they have a choice. But if you're in the same place, doing the same things, more or less, then what's the difference? Most people have religion. They do the same lives. They have arguments about religion, and it's the same life. It doesn't matter if you're calling God one name or another name, for example. It's fundamentally the same. You're doing the same. And people say normal life. Normal life is what they need normal, what they see everyone doing and themselves. And what's interesting is that when these seekers spot some seeker that is trying to move beyond this, go through its fears, to leave that behind, they try to persuade it not to. If there was a calling, well, like I said previously, there's something there that you need. And it's not about, because if the calling was there, what was left was to follow it. To do what, with what purpose, it doesn't matter. That which gives the direction will give the other directions. It is simple. But look at yourself, look at the world. And it's so funny. Not that funny, but it's funny in a sense, because some of these seekers, sometimes they are even unemployed, they don't work because they don't believe in the system anymore. They live with their parents at their expense, and they lecture the parents about being detached and they need to move forward and to be better people and blah, blah, blah. It's quite interesting. And it is your time that fades, disappears through your fingers. This world is just a passing through. From where? Well, it can be towards the same, strapped to samsara, or to freedom. That depends. If you're living in this world, to live, to transcend it, it is one thing. If this is your priority. If your priority is to live in the world and to survive in it, even if it is to have time to your spiritual practices, if your survival comes first then that's your goal. It's not about transcendence. So until there is awakening, individual consciousness continues, and life is not only guaranteed, it's the only thing you'll have. It doesn't matter in what kind of body, in what kind of circumstances. That will continue to be the case, so you don't need to struggle for it. You cannot escape it. But if that is your primary goal, it's not about transcendence. And there are limitations, of course. The human mind is limited in knowing, limiting in vision, limiting in everything except listening. You may not know the answers, but you can follow the pointing. It's not that difficult. And that is the way. And it starts with one pointing, and as you do that, another will come, and another, and another, and another. There won't be a plan explained to you, oh, you do this because that and that and that. You'll figure it out on the way, if it is important. Many enterprises are just for you to go. It's not about what you're going to do there, because at some point, you may even have to drop everything and just turn around again. So, what are you building? Well, making very short, building a place for those who are really tired and see the uselessness of all these structures and want to dedicate their time in a conscious, courageous way to their own process of liberation. This is what's being built here. Okay. So for today, that's it. Next satsang will be Wednesday, 9:30 in the morning, Brazilian time, UTC -3. Till then, make the best use of your time.